From America and across Europe, the big names have brought the big money to London, and this game is all about making your friends go broke. Each player is starting with a minimum of $100,000 of their own cash, and if they lose it, they can simply reach into their own pockets and buy back in. The starting lineup for this game is a who's who of poker. Lithuanian-born Tony G now lives in Australia. He is a player who likes to impose himself at the table, and after tasting a little bit of success last year, is hungry for more. The American Eric Seidel is used to the bright lights of Las Vegas, 8 World Series of Poker bracelets already won, and $7 million already banked through poker. Another American, Alan Cunningham, has picked up 5 World Series of Poker bracelets and has nearly $10 million worth of cash in the bank. Another American, Andy Block, is a rock, paper, scissors champion and has nearly $3 million in poker tournament prize money. Chris Jesus Ferguson is a man used to success living in Las Vegas. He has $6 million in tournament prize money. Phil Ivey is widely regarded as the best cash game player in the world. This golf fanatic will be confident of adding to his tournament winnings. Heralding from Finland, Patrick Antonius now lives in Las Vegas. He is one to watch, and this tennis player will be looking for the aces. Eric Lindgren is a man who likes to gamble. He has tasted success in 2007 and will be looking to add to his $5.5 million prize fund. Hello and welcome to the FullTiltPoker.com $1 million cash game in association with 50 London. This is the biggest cash game to ever be televised anywhere in the world, and as a result we have got 11 of the sharpest card players on the planet, all trying to make as much profit as possible over the next few shows in order to be crowned champion. Now, each of the players has brought in for $100,000 of their own money, with 2 exceptions, Phil Ivey and Patrick Antonius, who have instead chosen to start with $200,000 in chips. We're all set, so let's get straight to your commentators. Gary Jones, who's alongside David Tuckman.
Welcome to the FullTiltPoker.net $1 million cash game. We've assembled some of the sharpest minds in the poker world to play in the largest cash game to ever be televised in Europe. The excitement is real, and I, for one, can't wait for the first hand. Barry Mundy is on the floor making sure the game runs smoothly. I'm David Tuckman, alongside poker professional Gary Jones. Gary Jones, a great player in his own right, recently finished in 8th place in the World Series of Poker Europe horse event. Also won over $1 million on Full Tilt Poker. And the button is in seat number 2. That's Eric Seidel. Small blind, Alan Cunningham. Big blind, Andy Block. And the action is on 2000 world champion Chris Ferguson. We call him Jesus, and he has more hair than the entire table combined.
Well, there's very little hair sitting between Phil Ivey, Patrick Antonius and Eric Lindgren, so it wasn't too hard for him to beat the rest of them.
What happens if it comes 3 times?
Action over to Phil Ivey.
It could come 10 times. Yeah, but you don't need to say you're on double. You
call 10 times.
And he is going to limp in here.
You call double.
Yeah. I will. All right. When it's my turn, I'll put it on there.
Cool.
What suit are we?
Eric's in there as well with his King Jack. Here comes Tony G.
If I have 2 in my hand, is that bad?
He's in there as well.
Well, he's in the cutoff seat. He's one before the button. He likes the price. And action over to Eric Seidel, and he's got aces on the button.
He doesn't want
Right.
to.
And this is really a great spot with 3 limpers. It looks as if maybe he's trying to steal the pot, but this time he's got the goods.
Yeah, looks like a dead money pickup. He thinks that once the first guy's called, the rest are just going to call for value, hoping to get a cheap flop. Eric's raised it up, trying to pick up the chips, and Phil Ivey's not going to leave the money behind.
Yeah, he's going to call out of position with 4s, and they're going to see this flop heads up.
6,
Diamonds.
5, 2.
Well, it looks like quite a nice flop for pocket 4s.
It's not a bad flop there.
Check.
It depends what he gives Eric. If he gives Eric 2 big cards, a hand like Ace King, he might stay in with the 4s.
Now Ivey's got the gut shot. He can catch a 3 if it make a straight, or of course a 4 to make a set.
Yeah, just give
Pot
me
is now 12,700.
Wait, you end up with 75.
2 choices, well 3 choices. He can release the hand, which I very much doubt he will do. He can raise it to find out whether his 4s are good, but that may end up shutting him out of seeing the turn card.
Call.
Or he can just call, and that's what he's decided to do.
That was a $7,000 bet by Seidel, and Ivey does call. The pot is now 26-7.
King.
And there's the king of hearts. Now, if Seidel was making a continuation bet with ace-king, he's now there.
Exactly. Another bet here from Eric would probably be enough to win it from Phil. But of course, Eric's got to decide what he thinks Philip's calling with.
Now, with 2 diamonds out there, can you afford to give a card off? Remember, you do not have the ace of diamonds. He has ace of hearts and ace of spades in his hand.
Well, it's very dangerous to give a free card on this kind of a board. 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, kind of a 7-8 kind of hand, which could very easily be Ivey mixing it up. But he has given the free card.
And that's a scary card there, the queen of diamonds on the turn, on the river.
Yeah, there's not really a lot that Phil thinks he can probably beat here.
$25.
And he bets $25,000 into a 26-7 pot. Maybe putting Seidel on maybe 10s or jacks.
Yeah, any kind of middle pair is going to be a very difficult call here with 2 overcards and the diamond comes. But he makes the call. He's not laying down aces. You're going to have to show me a big hand, and it's not going to work.
Aces.
We go on 5 too. Just give me 5. You have to wait for rainbow. So I'm off with you guys.
There are some great players at this table. This is really going to be a challenging table. I think for the viewers, it's going to be great to see. They're going to see some great poker. I expect Phil Ivey to be, playing great because he always does.
Now I hit the space, I get
It's bad for the game.
only 10,000, right?
Full action now.
Obviously, big difference between tournament play and cash game play. The blinds do not escalate.
You are. Good.
A couple of snowmen here for Tony G.
You shouldn't do it though. I think it's really bad for the game.
I'm writing it down now, so it's not a big deal.
2-5.
There's no money being passed back.
Pass.
Just settle up at the end.
Bit of a statement of intent there. Ace-queen not enough for Seidel.
And you see Cunningham actually throwing away the king-queen offsuit.
We can do that.
It is a first position raise from Tony G. And despite his reputation of a bit of a mixer-upper, he is actually relatively tight when he plays in a cash game.
2-5.
This is everybody put
Call.
100,000 in.
His only action
Phil, I'm only
from Eric.
Eric's going to defend his blind with the suited 10-9.
7, 5, 3.
And not a bad flop for Tony G there. He's got the overpair.
4.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all that often.
Pass.
And a bet and take it for Tony G.
2-8.
This game's easy, huh?
Now I can play poker. Now I'm down 40,000. You're gonna play way too tight for that.
And the action is going to be on Eric Seidel here. He's under the gun. Eric Seidel with 8 World Series of Poker bracelets.
He really has a big picture of mine over there.
Got his 8th one last summer.
The shirt says lock it up. I wonder if he was stuck 50,000 if he'd be concerned.
Takes a peek at his cards.
I'd be under the
And he doesn't like what he sees. Throws it away.
on the floor. I fold.
Action over to 2005 World Series Poker Player of the Year, Alan Cunningham. He doesn't like it either. He throws it away.
Can't be good at everything.
Well, there goes Phil.
80.
Raising it up to 1,800.
Pass.
Pocket 4s.
12 more.
Call. 10, ace, 3. Check.
And Tony G has outflopped Ivey here.
25. Call.
Check from Tony G. Bet from Phil. And a call from Tony.
5.
Not too sure on his kicker. This could be a good opportunity for Phil to take a free card.
Yeah, he's picked up a gut shot here.
Well, he's keeping the pressure on.
6.
Now, this can be a tough spot for Tony G. He's got top pair, but he's got no kicker. What do you do here? Pot is now $15,500.
Kind of wishes his kicker was even worse right now. A 4 or a deuce would give him a good shot as a just in case.
Exactly.
He's also worried about the next bet.
Take it.
Pass.
Well, he gives it a quick flash, mucks it, and Phil takes his first pot of the day with the worst hand. Nice play, Phil. Put the pressure on.
To get started, one player is made the nominated dealer or button. Then the 2 players to the left post the small and big blinds. These are force bets to get the action started. The big blind is always double the small, but unlike a tournament, the blinds rarely change. However, they are sometimes increased to spice up the action. We start here with $300 and $600. There's also an ante of $100 per player, which must be paid if they want to play in a hand. Once the blinds and antes are posted, everyone is dealt 2 cards. We have a round of betting. Then 3 cards are placed face up on the table, called the flop. These are the community cards for all the players to use. Then we have another round of betting, after which the 4th card, the turn, is placed in the middle. This is followed by some more betting and the last community card, the river. Then we finish off with a final round of betting. The best 5-card hand takes the money.
Buttons in seat number 1.
Hundreds, please.
Now you like to be to Ivey's left, but in this case it's actually dangerous because if Ivey raises, Antonius has got to worry about all the tight players behind him.
Yeah, I still like Patrick's spot. The best spot for me is Tony G at this table. Sitting seat 1 with those 4 all sitting behind him.
I lost 10. Patrick is plus 5, you're minus 10.
Pass. Pass.
Make it think I can.
Call.
And Phil Ivey going to keep mixing it up. He's going to call here with the 10-9 offsuit.
Call.
Eric Lindgren in there with Jack 3 suited.
Pass.
Well, the Jack 3's got the button.
Call.
Eric's happy to play with his
Alright.
pocket 6s. And this one's going to be 4-handed to the flop.
3, ace,
All hearts out
Check.
there.
check.
Amazingly, not a heart between the 4 players in the pot.
You know, and the best hand actually is still Eric Seidel.
I'm absolutely ladies and gentlemen. I'm beyond grateful.
This is going to be one of those cases where whoever bets is probably going to take it down, and nobody does bet. Queen of hearts on the turn.
Check. Check.
Alan Cunningham with the best hand here.
Okay.
And look at this, king of hearts on the river, and this is going to be a 4-way chop if nobody bets.
2.
But Ivey's not going to let that happen. He throws in $2,000.
Pass.
Well, then people might actually make a big bet and try to.
What do you think, Gary? Does anybody call this?
Well, 2 of them are down, and there goes Alan Cunningham as well. That one's going to go to Phil.
You might have had to do so hard.
Look at that great aggressive play from Phil Ivey.
Do so hard.
Takes down the pot. He figures nobody else wants it. I'll take it.
The greatest aspect of poker is the fact that anybody can win or lose. And anybody can beat anybody on any given day. And that's what makes poker one of the greatest games in the world. Is that, you know, there's a lot of newcomers that come along that don't play poker but so long, and they end up winning big, giant poker tournaments. And, you know, you see it time and time again. And that's the great thing about poker.
Fast talk, fast action. Join us after the break for plenty more of the same.
Button slides over to Eric Seidel in seat number 2. Alan Cunningham, small blind. Andy, the rock block in the big blind. And Chris Jesus Ferguson with ace-queen offsuit and under the gun. It's a nice hand, but sometimes awful tough to play out of position.
Yeah, it is. It looks like he's going to open up for 1,600. You'll probably get a lot of respect here, apart from Eric Lindgren, of course.
Call.
That's a call.
Pass.
His king's life for Eric, but his queen's dominated by the ace-queen of Chris Ferguson.
And Andy Block is going to call as well. He's got ace-jack offsuit here. He's also dominated.
9, 3, 5.
And not surprisingly, nobody hits the flop.
Yeah, everyone's kind of got each other's cards here.
Check.
9, 5, 3. A couple of hearts out there. Pot is 6,200.
4.
And Eric Lindgren knows what to do when he has position. He's going to try to take this one down.
Pass.
He's actually in third place right now.
Pass.
Oftentimes the aggressor is rewarded in poker, and Lindgren is rewarded here for his aggressive play. Here we are with the ranking of the hands. First we have high card. In this case, a king high would win it. Then we have one pair. In this case, pair of aces. Then two pair. Jacks and nines will do it. Then three of a kind. Three of the same one. 3 fours. Then we have a straight. 5 cards in order, not the same suit. Then a flush. 5 cards, the same suit. 5 hearts will do it. Then we have a full house. 3 sevens, 2 kings. This would be sevens full of kings. 4 of a kind, 4 kings. Then we have a straight flush. 5 cards in order, all the same suit. And here's the most beautiful hand in the world. Royal flush. 10, 2 ace, all the same suit. Alan Cunningham has the button here. Alan came in 4th place in the main event of the World Series of Poker in 2006. Really one of the best poker players in the world today. So mild-mannered.
Yeah, very quiet at the table. Very, very strong.
And look at this. Phil Ivey's got a live straddle in there. Now the blinds are 300, 600, which means the live straddle is 1,200. Explain to us exactly what that is, Gary.
Well, basically, normally when you're playing, you're going to see 2 blinds out there. That's going to be the small blind and the big blind, 300, 600. What you have the option to do in a cash game quite often is to do what's called an overblind or a live straddle. What that actually means is you're doubling the big blind again, and it means that the action then starts on your immediate left, and you're going to have an option if no one raises to raise it up. That's what he's doing. It gets the action going, creates bigger pots. And right now, Phil Ivey's a little bit stuck.
56 total.
So he's quite happy to do the overstraddle. It's induced a raise pre-flop from Chris Ferguson. Not leaving his 1,200 behind, Phil Ivey's decided to call. And that's going to drag in Eric.
Some interesting hands out there.
Only on these kind of tables, though.
Well, you can be pretty certain whether it's a raise and 2 calls that Chris is going to have the best hand. And this time, he's actually flopped the best of it as well. His ace-10, he's flopped top 2.
1,000,000 to 1.
A little piece of it for Phil.
I ripped you apart.
Pot is $17,600.
10.
He played some pots.
Yeah.
He's kept it cheap enough here almost for Phil to call to try and catch a second pair. Phil doesn't actually want to, because if he does, it could get him into a world of pain.
Well, if you wonder, that's exactly why Chris Ferguson made that small bet, to make it almost look like as if he was weak.
Oh, yeah.
Pot is now $27,600, $10,000 to call for Ivey. And he is not going to get involved, and can't imagine Lindgren getting involved here with 3-5 clubs.
You recovered well, like a true champion.
So Chris wins a nice pot. I think that's his first one of the day.
This is a really, really good move.
And wow, look at that. Phil Ivey already down $77,000. Just a drop in the bucket for him, though, huh?
Yeah, when you've won nearly $8 million in tournament winnings, dropping $77,000 in a cash game isn't going to kill you. It's probably going to hurt, but it isn't going to kill him.
Action's over to the star from Finland, Patrick Antonius. Patrick really burst onto the scene in 2005 when he won a EPT event, as well as came in 2nd place at the World Poker Tour main event.
No, but on your big blind, it doesn't go any further.
Looks like a limp from Eric.
If you're going to pick up aces, you probably want
No, if you're not on the hit. No, but if
No,
you
I
say
mean,
you want to get up,
we're talking about Al.
Well, I think we're waiting for Phil to make his mind up in the big blind. I think he wants to cover all of his
3,000 more.
his cards up with chips, and he's raised it up 3,000.
Call.
Very quick call from Eric.
Oh, there's the reason why he's raised it up. Ace King, big slick, offsuit there. And Lindgren's going to call here with a very dominated hand.
8, 10.
Wow, what a flop for Eric.
Well, now this might get Ivy in trouble.
You just get up and leave. You got the guy covered by enough. You want to make
Yeah,
sure
you just
Five
win it.
thousand.
At the end of the
win,
day.
you sit up.
This has got the makings of a big hand here. Ivy with top pair, top kicker. Eric Lindland with 2 pair, top 2.
Well, it's a bet and a call. He's going to slow play the ace-10. Here comes the turn.
Jack.
Better than two.
Turns the jack of diamonds there. That gives Ivy a couple more outs here. He can catch a queen now.
As well as a king and a jack.
12.
It already feels like, it feels like he's
His
got the
percentages
game
have gone up
anyway.
from 15% on the flop to 23 on the turn.
Looking for his bicycle.
Call.
We have a bet and a call.
Pot is 30,000 now, 40,000. And look at that, the river is a queen of clubs. Oh, you've got to be sick if you're Lindgren. You can really beat nothing with 2 pair there now. And Ivy has made the straight. He's got the nuts here.
He has the nuts. He's probably hoping that Eric's got a 9 in his hand. Still trying to decide how much to bet.
Might you overbet this? Make it look like a steal.
Well, you want to try and be consistent. If in this spot you'd be trying to bet 30,000 with a bluff, you probably want to bet 30,000. If you're going to bet 20,000 with a bluff, you want to bet 20,000. Occasionally you can mix it up and try and play with your opponent's head, but for the most part you want to be consistent.
Well, he makes a pot-sized bet here. He bets 40,000 into a $42,000 pot. And Lindgren's got to be sick to his stomach. Nothing he can beat here.
He's basically only calling to beat a bluff in this spot.
Pass.
Well, he makes a good lay down. Aces and 10s, perfect flop for him. He kept it slow. And Phil Ivey, who got off to a terrible start, picks up a very nice pot there.
And after 12 hands, Tony G in seat number 1, he's up $41,300. Eric Seidel in seat 2, up $40,000, courtesy of those pocket aces early on. Alan Cunningham hasn't really mixed it up much. He's down $3,100. Andy Block, the Rock, surprisingly down $36,000.
Yeah, he certainly seemed to have come to play. The big story was Phil Ivey. He was down 70-odd thousand very early. He's managed to make a recovery there. He's only down 55,500. I say only, it's still quite a lot of money.
And here we are back into the action. Button is on Chris Ferguson there. Chris Jesus Ferguson. Small blind, Phil Ivey. Big blind, the Finnish star, Patrick Antonius. Action is on Eric Lindgren.
I can tell you this, if this was a tournament, this would be a nightmare scenario for trying to steal the blinds with Phil Ivey and Patrick Antonius in the small and big. In fact, if this was a tournament, I would certainly want a table change because this is a really tough field.
7,000 to play.
Now this is an interesting play here. We've got a $2,000 raise from Eric Seidel with ace-6 of hearts. And Alan Cunningham, who hasn't played a hand all day, is going to use his tight image and come over the top with 5-4 diamonds. He makes it 7,000 to go.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to win this one. I can't imagine Eric calling for flop with ace-6 once he's been re-raised. He was kind of trying to sneak one in there, I think. Nope, that doesn't go through.
Oh, what a phenomenal play by Alan Cunningham there. Alan Cunningham, almost $9 million in prize money. He's really had a phenomenal last couple of years.
That's how I win at poker. It's all just feeling. Put it on the glass. There's no skill involved.
Just makes for more punishment for the other two. I'll do it.
600 split.
One man's in. So you get to call the others.
Action on Alan Cunningham now. He's not going to play. Andy Block is going to play, though. He's got big slick.
1800.
Genuine hand here for Andy. It's the first one I think we've seen him have. 1800 is the bet.
3 times the big blind.
Pretty standard stuff.
6,000.
Wow, and look at this play by Phil Ivey. He has re-raised it with King 8 offsuit.
Well, he's using the button. He's hoping that he can get rid of Andy.
6,000 is the total.
Now what do you do if you're sitting there with Ace-King for Andy Block?
Ace-King, a strong hand, but still is a drawing hand. If only Block knew how strong he was here.
Well, he does have the advantage of having lost money early on. He's got a lot less in front of him, so he might be prepared to stick a re-raise in and commit himself should Phil decide to come back over the top of him.
I'm all in.
Well, he hasn't even skipped that step out.
Not that much. Going on here. See, this game is 55 or something. 60.
Not that much.
60, but 60 something.
So it's only a 6,000 raise by Phil Ivey and over 60,000.
Blackjack is that good, huh?
Not much.
Well, Phil's giving him a stare, but I can't imagine him calling this bet.
Count all the way down. I got something good this time.
Fold.
And Ivy tosses it away.
No.
Obviously, I had no intention of calling with the King 8 offsuit. But he's going to make Block sweat it out.
Don't you think that's more of a tournament play to start moving in 60,000 of your chips with Ace-King?
Well, it's a spot where you're only going to get called if you're beat.
Exactly.
Could have been.
The interesting play would have been what you had said, where if he re-raises it to, say, 15,000, pretty much Block committing himself.
And it almost looks more of like a sucking bet. You know you're not going to do that with aces. You're not going to move 60,000 of your chips in the cash game with aces. It just seems like a very strange play. Only, like you say, you could almost read it for an ace-king. You can see exactly what it is with the way he's played it. Unless he's going to mix it up with kings and aces and play it the same way.
That flop was...
Button in seat number 7, Patrick Antonius. Big blind is Tony G, and you know this blind's going to get defended.
He'll probably convince the others not to play it by talking to them.
2,000 to go.
Well, Alan's getting into the swing of things now. We just saw him re-raise with suited connectors Eric Seidel. He's now playing with his king-queen.
And you can see the respect he gets. Nobody calls here. Action over to Tony G in the big blind.
Well, he said he was going to defend. Let's see if it's true. Nope.
Well, Tony G didn't have much to defend with there.
I wouldn't do it. I was thinking if I saw, I would say.
I don't think he's interested in playing heads up against Alan Cunningham.
No, I would stop. I would say.
Most of the players at this table know he's one of the best there is.
In a cash game, you have to make sure you change your style of play enough times and from time to time, possibly from session to session or within one session, so that nobody can really put you on a particular betting style, or they can't really identify your range of hands that you would have in any specific situation. So it's very important in the cash game to sometimes play tight, sometimes play loose, sometimes bluff a lot, sometimes not bluff at all without letting your opponent catch on to when you're changing your gears.
He hasn't made a mistake yet. For 27 and a half times.
I want to see Fergie.
600 to call.
Yeah. Like if someone paid him like a
And Phil Ivey there with the king-queen offsuit.
That would be a great shot.
He's been raising with less, so why not?
Break it all out today.
Well, they're the first two hands that are in the pot.
No, he has to get like big stack and just, he has to lose it.
We need to start drinking.
Eric Seidel on the button with a 6-deuce offsuit. Maybe he just wants to show this one. Well, if it comes down 6-6, he's going to be dominated by Alan Cunningham.
Okay,
5 players.
They have done that.
Well, I'd be willing to bet that no one could name Eric Seidel's hand right now.
3, 9, Jack.
And Andy Block with the best hand here. He's got top pair. But he's got a pretty ugly hand there, Jack 7 offsuit.
Well, everyone's checked it.
Ace.
That ace makes a difference.
Checked.
That's going to put Patrick Antonius in the lead.
Checked. $3,000.
Inquisitive bet there from Patrick Antonius.
And Andy Block's going to call this. I'm not sure I like this call here. He played the hand very weakly, and now he's going to put up a fight.
Yeah, check call, not a great strategy, especially not in a 5-handed pot with second pair.
Last card for 2. 6. Check.
6 doesn't change things.
It is a third hard out there. Pot is 9,800. And look at this. This is a nice value bet here.
7,000.
Yes, it is. There's an awful lot of draws that Andy Block can possibly give Patrick Antonius. With no bet on the flop, he's probably not going to give him hearts. So he could give him diamonds, he could give him a 10 queen, any of these kind of hands, or just a steal. So Andy might actually call this bet. So it is a good value bet from Patrick.
Well, if Andy thought he was good on the turn, why wouldn't he think he's good now?
That's all it's going to cost you, just 8 little chips, until you realise that represents over $6,000.
Andy Block's got almost $3 million in tournament winnings to date.
7,000 is called.
Part of the MIT Blackjack team.
Ace 10.
And look at that, he called with Jack 7. Great value bet by Patrick Antonius. Really a great value bet there.
I think Andy's going to be a little bit disappointed in how he played that pot. Very easy for him to convince himself that Patrick was stealing or was on some kind of misdraw.
Well, you never want to play the hand weakly, let your opponent get there, and then still pay him off.
Yeah, if you're going to trap the flop.
Where's Phil Gordon? He's on his bar.
Blasted him yesterday.
He didn't play.
Was he supposed to?
I busted devilfish.
I think he ran away to Italy.
I send those 2
600 to play.
Totally.
Action is on Phil Ivey here. He's under the gun, and he's going to limp in.
I tell you, Robert Williamson played great.
6.
Really, he laid down 2 times sets. He laid down. So, like, couldn't do it with top kicker. That's
Patrick Antonius in the pot as well.
no, like 2 queens on the board. He had ace queen. He laid it down.
Tony joining the action with a 3-6 of clubs.
On the river. I call it.
600 to go.
Huh?
Any action.
And Alan Cunningham's in there too with the Queen 6 of spades.
6 players.
Well, they've certainly loosened up. A lot of players to the flop.
King, ace 7.
Flop comes out ace, king, 7, rainbow.
Checked.
Now, this is one of those spots where,
Checked.
without a raise,
Check.
you probably don't think anybody has a strong ace, but Chris Ferguson does have an ace.
Yeah, the only person who hasn't actually volunteered a chip into the pot, the big blind Chris Ferguson, flops the best hand and turns a card which is going to make him feel so much more confident about his hand. Now aces and 9s. 2 spades there. Couple of flush draws out.
Yeah, you can see the bet there by Andy Block. He's going to bet his flush draw. He's got Jack deuce of spades. He picked up the spade draw on the turn. He's going to try to pick it up. Doesn't think anybody's that strong. Little does he know that the 2000 World Series of Poker champion has 2 pair.
I have to call.
What game was this? Just a little.
Patrick.
You got to phone a friend.
Yes,
What's the penalty for following out a turn?
Chris Ferguson counting out the chips.
I'm not sure that'd be up to the tournament director.
Okay. Well, you should get over here.
7,500.
And he raises it up. He makes it 5,000 more.
Well, another flush draw for Alan Cunningham gets released very, very quickly, but that's two of the outs for Andy Block.
It's already getting hot.
Now, the real question for Andy Block is, if I hit my spade, will I get paid
middle
off?
ground.
Chris Ferguson has not given him the right odds to call this.
Well, you've also got to understand there's king nine of spades on there. He could easily be doing this with an ace and an ace flush draw, and that could leave Andy Block drawing dead.
Well said.
But he could be a little bit on tilt. He just wasted some chips to Patrick Antonius in one of the more recent hands.
5,000 call.
And look at that, he is going to call here. It's a real questionable call.
Last card between two.
Who's going to understand that?
Watching live.
Deuce gives him a pair, but he knows that's not going to be very good.
It's one of those spots where you probably just want to lick your wounds and go away. Really no point in bluffing this one, is there?
No, I don't think so.
No chance of losing that lead.
Chris trying to decide how much he can bet to maybe get a caller. I think he's flogging a dead horse here.
I'm trying to stall the game as much as I can.
And he's going to bet 10,000 into a $19,000 pot. And I can't imagine Andy Block calling this one.
Nope. One just last look at how bad I played this pot. He mucks it. And that pot goes to Chris Ferguson.
Another donation.
For me, the reason for doing this is really the challenge. I'm interested in getting in and starting to play more cash games, in particular against the best players in the world. I really want to play against the best in the world. That's what it's about. I think all the top players want to play against each other. So I really look forward to that.
So as the chips and dollars continue to fly into the middle, we are going to pause for breath. We'll see you in just a few moments here on the FullTiltPoker.com $1 Million Cash Game.
Nice chip.
And the action is on Eric Linger, and he's not going to play this right now. Over to Tony G.
Tony's talked a lot, hasn't played too much, but he still managed to be winning nearly $40,000 in this cash game.
And look at this, Chris Ferguson, another hand. And this time he's in position. He's going to make it 2,000 on the button with King Queen offsuit.
2,000 called.
Phil Ivey's seen too much. He's going to call this time.
3 players.
3 to the flop. Patrick Antonius defending as well.
2 ace jack.
Well, this is an interesting flop here.
Check.
There is the ace out there, which Chris Ferguson can represent. But Ivey's got the diamond draw.
Check.
Notice so far, Chris hasn't done the continuation bet in a three-handed pot. He's been happy to take any free cards. He's been consistent so far in that stance.
5,000.
Ivey's going to bet this here, and that should be enough to take it down. Normally, if I raise on the button, I want to represent that ace, but in this case, Ferguson actually did have a gut shot. A 10 would have given him Broadway.
He was happy to take the free card that was offered to him. But this one goes to Phil Ivey with a semi-bluff with the 10-8 of diamonds with a flush draw.
Phil Ivey, one of the best players. He knows when to semi-bluff, knows when to fold him.
Well, he's still stuck over 50,000 at the moment, but that pot's going to bring him a little bit closer to the $200,000 he started with.
Next time you get
Action over to Eric Seidel.
No, just spent the summer.
He took his dog on vacation. Dog picked the spot, made him eat dog food.
Yeah.
Over to Andy Block here. Queen 10 offsuit.
1,700.
And he's going to raise it up to 1,700. Andy Block coming in with really some speculative hands.
Well, he definitely came to play. The Rock not really living up to his name so far. He's got one caller so far from Ivey. Looks like the big blind's going to be defended by Tony G, and we're 3 to the flop.
Ace, 7, queen. Checked. Check.
Look, now, nobody has an ace,
Check.
but a couple of players do have queens. Andy Block's got the best of it. He's got a better kicker than Ivy.
5,000.
Look at this, though. Tony G, he's going to bet on the turn, though.
He's the only one that hasn't got any of it. The ace is going to make the queens feel a little bit better about their hand.
Now, at this point, though, I can't imagine him getting Block and Ivy to both to fold. 2 aces out there make it less likely Tony G has an ace.
Possibly going through Andy Block's mind is his bad call he made earlier on with the second pair.
It's up to you, right? Yep.
It's 5,000.
Andy Block's going to play. And he actually doesn't have Phil Ivey here. Now, this might be a good spot for a squeeze play, but he's just going to call.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about the squeeze play myself. It's easy when we're sitting here and we can see the hands. Neither of them have got an ace.
6.
Well, Andy Block's got the best hand. His kicker's live.
Checked.
Hold'em, your best 5 cards play. So Andy Block's got aces and queens with a 10 kicker, while Ivy's got aces and queens with a 9 kicker. Hold'em, a game of kickers,
Checked.
isn't it?
It certainly is.
Last bet from here. See the cards.
It's gone checked all the way around.
King high.
A decent sized bet might have been enough here.
Queen. Aces and queens.
But Andy turns over the queen, followed by the 10, and that's going to be enough to take this pot down. Phil's not even going to get to have to show his hand.
Ace and queens with a 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 plays.
And that gives Andy Block reason to smile. Probably the first thing all day that's given him reason to smile.
Well, in the cash game, people usually have big stacks compared to the blinds. So you got to think multiple streets ahead. You can't just think about, well, I'm going to push in pre-flop. Because, hey, if you're playing 300, 600 blinds, you can't just push in for $100,000 before the flop. That'd be insane. So you have to be thinking, well, how is my action going to affect what's going to happen on the flop, on the turn, on the river? So you have to, there's an extra level of thinking that you don't see in a lot of tournaments.
Action over to Alan Cunningham. He'll be under the gun. Now this is one of those spots with Phil Ivey, Patrick Antonius, and Eric Lindgren all in late position. You're pretty sure it's not going to fold around to the blinds.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a pot played just between Tony G and Eric here. Well, an ace-9 for Chris. He's been playing an awful lot of hands, but they've all been premium. This is kind of one of those marginal situations. Usually one I'd expect him to pass, actually, but he's obviously feeling a little saucy. He's caught some cards early. He's up over 15,000. He's going to press his luck a little.
Lindgren likes his king-queen offsuit, and he's going to call this. Now, ace-9 is a precious hand for Chris Ferguson. That's the hand that he won the World Series of Championship with in 2000, beating T.J. Cloutier.
Yeah, maybe he has a kind of affectionate feel for that hand, and that's why he's decided to raise it up with it.
I'm going to see this 3 ways.
9-7-5.
Well, it's a nice flop for Chris. He's also got someone else in there with a bit of a hand here. It's Tony G. He's got top pair and a straight draw.
4,000.
When we talk about being dominated, this is exactly why you don't want to be dominated. Tony G with top pair, but no kicker.
Not only can he catch his 8, he can also catch a 6 for a straight. And he'll probably think that his 9's live as well if Chris decides to get re-raise this pot. He's not going to give Chris ace-9 in that position.
Now, the fact that Chris Ferguson has the ace of spades, does that make it less likely that Tony G would be betting a spade draw here?
It does make it less likely that he's betting a spade draw. He's looking like he's going to use his position, Chris. A re-raise would probably mean his position's less valuable in the pot.
9.
Wow, what a card to get some action going here.
That really is the card. If you're Tony G, you almost have to put Chris Ferguson on jacks or queens, some over pair.
Checked.
Friends.
Pot is 14,500.
Who's it up What's going
That
on?
really was an action card. 9 of diamonds on the turn.
Let's go. Look at it. He's playing with a hand.
One of them is
Again.
you. I think we know what he's up to.
9,000.
I call.
Called.
Wow, just a bet and a call. Does Tony G smell something?
Last card. King.
Well, that makes no difference.
Checked.
Chris still good with his ace kicker. The action with Chris Ferguson. If this one's a bet call, it's going to be very well played from Tony G.
Okay, it's called.
Ace 9G.
He must give Chris a set on this flop.
What else do you play?
Hold on.
It is. It's gone check call. 20,000 was the bet on the river.
You want a little
Well, Tony G's played that one very well. He's done the minimum in the pot, really.
He played it to perfection. He has to realize that when Chris Ferguson bet 3 streets in a row, he wasn't messing around. He had to at least have a set or a 9.
Just push it.
After 24 hands, let's take a look at the leaderboard. Our big winner so far, Chris Ferguson, up almost $53,000. He's really been getting a run of cards. Eric Seidel still up 34,000, and Eric Lindgren quietly up 18,000.
Yeah, the big loser here, Phil Ivey, with the nearly 61,000 down. He really got off to a bad start. Looks like he steadied the ship a bit, and I think we can expect to see him maybe grind it all back and get back to his $200,000 starting chips.
Well, what a great night at the table it has been. Let's hope for plenty more next time here on the FullTiltPoker.com $1 million cash game. From all of us, though, it's bye for now.